Coming up on NBA Today, the Pels come into LA and they absolutely pummel the Lakers. So our panel's reaction to the shocking performance. Plus, Perk said that they could be the best duo in the NBA, and oh my gosh, it looks like he was right. Why Embiid and Harden are meshing so well. And the Mavs, they did what to the Dubs? How Luka gave himself an early birthday gift. Plus, my sit down with him in just a bit. NBA Today starts right now. Alongside senior writer Ramona Shelburne and Richard Jefferson, I'm Malika Andrews. We have Woj stopping by in just a bit. We have so much to get to, though, between the news that happened over the weekend, some great games, and let's be really honest, some not great games. But let's get this party started, because speaking of parties, it sure looked like the Pelicans brought Mardi Gras to LA yesterday. Richard, I'm honestly sorry that you have to relive this, but here we are.
I'm going to be really honest. I'm sorry for my kids. Look, they had 16 turnovers. I brought my kids to the game. Ooh. And my youngest one, he comes out with a Laker hat. I was like, oh, you got a Laker hat? He's like, yeah. And I was like, Lil Rich, you didn't want to get it? He was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. So my 7-year-old did not want to watch this. He didn't even want to buy any merchandise from the game.
Well, neither did the fans that were in the arena.
Oh,
because
nobody
last night
wanted.
In Crypto.com, this is what it sounded like. Take a listen.
No, it was. I'll be really honest, and I'll give credit to the Laker fans, considering how poor the team played the majority of the game. They didn't really start booing till it got to a point of when they should have been booed.
Well, here are them after the game.
Does the booing, pretty loud, especially at the end of the game, does that stick with you? Like, how do you handle respond to that? Like, you don't take that home with you?
Take it home for what?
I don't think about it.
Take it home, man. Well, I got 3 beautiful kids at my house. My wife ain't taking it home. They take their boo and they take their ass home.
Well, I don't have an answer from tonight. I mean, obviously, you talk about the future. That's for us all to figure out. I mean, you don't know what can happen in the next, few weeks, but. No, this season is definitely different.
All right, so the game was so draining. Here's Richard pregame. Look, he's smiling, happy. Fast forward a little bit through the game, and then Richard, this is a safe space. Tell us how you really feel.
Because they were asking me, and I'm like, both teams played hard. Okay,
no,
look,
they didn't.
No, they didn't. They both.
I will contact HR about your hazard pay.
Let me just answer the question about the booze. And look, everyone here has played sports. Most of these guys have played the highest level of basketball since they were 15 years old. Boos do not bother us. If a fan gets disrespectful, boos don't bother us. Our performance bothers us. That is why we are getting booed. It has nothing. If the whole crowd is booing us, they might as well just be playing a road game. So respectfully, those questions are just more of ho-hum questions. And so their performance is what should be the focal point, not what the crowd is doing in reaction to their terrible performance.
Right, but the natural next question then that I have, at least, Ramona, is what's the fallout as the Lakers now sit 2.5 games ahead of 11th, and that's following another disappointing defeat.
Well, listen, I checked because it was the kind of loss where they were so uncompetitive,
right?
So non-competitive that you say, okay, well, did they blame the coach? Frank Vogel, you're out? I mean, it was that bad.
And?
No, nothing, no changes. If anything, I think the sense that people had last night was give them the day off. Just forget about it and come back. They got the Mavs on Tuesday. And, it's not like they earned a day off because they didn't really show up yesterday. But there's sometimes you can't say anything. And Malika, they got an earful from the coaching staff at halftime. I've heard various descriptions of that earful. The words selfish play, poor effort, unprofessional were used.
Wow.
It was unprofessional. It was hard for me, and I'm going to say this very, very respectfully, from a person that has been my entire life and even knows those guys, and I know how much they all care about the game of basketball. I wouldn't say it was disrespectful. It was just unprofessional. It was, because 16 turnovers, the way they were turning the ball, it's you can have a bad game. You can have a 23 turnover night where just you're getting charges, you're dribbling the ball off your foot. But there was a mental thing lacking for them. and it was very evident.
And it doesn't get easier from here, right? They play the Mavs next, and then the Clippers after that, who they've struggled with.
And the Warriors.
And by the way, then the Warriors are coming into town next weekend. That's on ABC. So that's kind of all I got.
If you hear from your coaching staff at halftime and somebody says that's unprofessional, you would think in the second half things would change.
It got worse.
No, it definitely did not change. All right, let's go from one super team that's clearly falling apart to another one that may be a burgeoning juggernaut. Ooh. So how about the new look Sixers? So the Philadelphia Inquirer, they cleverly went with Madison Square Harden. I see you getting your New York Post on after the performance that we're about to show you, because after Harden, he struggled pregame with some chairs there. He and Embiid, they did work against the Knicks. A 125-109 win. That's thanks to a cool 37 points from Embiid on a career-high 23 free throws. Yes, you heard that correctly. And Harden was masterful, dropping 29 points, 16 dimes, and 10 boards for Philly, who are a perfect 2-0 since he was activated. Here are both of them following the win.
Unstoppable. Man, what are you really going to do? He's a great passer, and obviously I got someone that attracts a lot of attention to. So you got to make a decision. Do you stay on me or do you stay on them? I'm happy I don't have to post up every single possessions. So it's great.
We're overly confident, with the group that we have. I'm looking forward to Wednesday, man. So tonight felt like we was in Philly, but the crowd gonna be turned in there, and I'm ready for it.
So James Harden is the only player in NBA history with 25 points and 10 assists in each of his first 2 games with a new team. And now he's done it twice, this season with the Sixers and then last season with the Nets.
Yeah, but in NBA history, let's also say most time, like guys in their prime that are MVP caliber players don't switch teams 2 times in 2 seasons.
That's
so
fair.
Yeah, that's a cool stat, but there's also
so pump the brakes. All right. Well then, Richard, let's break down the why behind James Harden's success in Philly. What have you noticed on the court that tells you that they can maybe maintain what they've been doing?
Okay, let's go to the tape, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about 2 of the baddest men in basketball and what they're able to do. Watch this pick and roll here. Watch how quickly Joel Embiid, it's not just rolling, it's how fast you roll. And that puts Julius Randle in such a tough spot because he's having to guard Tobias and having to make a decision on Embiid. He gets frozen. And at that point in time, there's nothing you can do. You have to be on top of it. Then here, again, watch Joel Embiid, and this pass is amazing. They talk about being able to throw it over that first line of defense, right over Cat. D'Angelo Russell, Byron Russell, any Russell. Ain't nobody gonna stop Joel Embiid that close, trust me. Then here again, watch this. He draws so much, and for me, this is key because Tyrese Maxey had the ball in his hands. He was developing into a point guard, and so now his ability to knock down, just catch and shoot jumpers, that is going to be a huge thing, especially with no Seth Curry. So his ability to knock down spot-up jumpers versus having the ball in his hands, that was my one question for Tyrese Maxey, and he's been playing outstanding since this trade.
Well, they've still gotten the others going, but thank you for that, Richard. That was
I got
very
you.
informative. All right, Ramona, let's get to you now. This has been quite the pairing. Why are they the perfect fit, if you will?
Well, I spoke to Daryl Morey, who's the president of basketball operations for the Sixers after James Harden's debut on Friday, and he said, James has always wanted to play with Joel. Even when James was in Houston, he would say to Daryl Morey, like, that guy, I want to play with that guy. And a lot of it was he respected how good Joel was at stopping him defensively. Not many people can stop James Harden at that point. But Daryl Morey called him a basketball genius who has always thought this pairing with Joel Embiid would be like the perfect fit. Now, we've all sat up here and found the reasons why it may not be a perfect fit, but I'm seeing them do things that I've never seen them do. James Harden is catching and shooting 3-pointers. He's playing off the ball. Joel Embiid is doing it. He's diving to the hoop.
Quick night, Richard. So let's go there now. You can see Steph Curry and the Warriors. They're hosting the Mavericks. Let's jump ahead to the third quarter. Warriors up 18 here. Steph had his 3 blocked. Gets it back.
And he's gone. He knows. He likes looking at it. He's enjoying it. Look at that. They're just crushing. They're cruising. There's nothing else going on.
Well, until the fourth quarter.
Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just break it out to you. You will not see another Warrior highlight. Why? Because there were no Warrior highlights. This was all Dallas, all fourth quarter. It was so impressive just to watch this team continue to battle. They know it's Luka's birthday party. They know that they want to go out. They want to have a good time. And the only way to do do that is if you can pull out a win, and it was just impressive. Doing his little patented one-legged step back over step. I'm sorry, even a bigger player, that would be hard for them to guard. But this team was just locked in. Watch this, up by 3, minute and a half to go, and then Dinwiddie. What a pickup for them. Spencer Dinwiddie, the do-it-all guard, 26-1.
26-1
like they were
run
playing
in
the Lakers.
fourth, and they end up winning by 6 points. Really, I mean, an incredible performance all around from Luka Doncic and the Mavs. It looked like they were dead in the water early on, and then all of a sudden they come out and have a performance like this. Take a listen to these folks after the game.
It should be the whole team doing an interview, man. It's just unbelievable. I was struggling. I started bad, everything, and they helped me up. You know, without them, without this team, we would lose by 40 probably. So I appreciate them, and they just kept me in the game.
It's a good lesson for us. We've got to understand the NBA games turn on a dime. I mean, it happens quickly, and you got to be able to withstand that. So we've got to do a better job of executing under pressure and maintaining confidence.
All right, so this is the first for the Warriors. They haven't lost a regular season game like this where they led by 21 plus since November of 2007. So the Warriors, though, they're still second in the West, a game and a half ahead of Perk's Memphis Grizzlies. So, Ramona, we all know that Luka is a problem for everyone, but now he's getting some help with Spencer Dinwiddie. He had 24 points on 31 minutes off of the bench. So what's been his impact since joining the Mavs?
Well, this is the perfect role for him, right? I mean, he doesn't, you call him a point guard, but he's really more of a scoring guard and playing next to Luka where you don't have to facilitate everything. He can just score. Coming off the bench, he played every minute of that fourth quarter, okay? So it's not always who starts the game, it's who closes the game. And for Spencer, this is exactly where they want to be using him. He's shown up really, really big in the last couple of games here, especially last night. When they traded for him, it was seen as a exchange of two bad contracts with him and Porzingis, but this actually has worked out a lot better for the Mavericks than expected.
Look, I watched him in Brooklyn, and he was playing high-level basketball. Like, this is a man that can average 17, 18 points a game given the opportunities. And what I like about him is that he's not just like a catch-and-shoot scoring guard. He's not just like a in transition. He can do it in a variety of ways. He'll get to the free throw line. He'll knock down some threes. So I'm not saying that it's hard to stop him, but he can beat you in so many different ways that if you shut down the three, he'll clean it up on the other end. So I really like this addition to their team.
Absolutely. All right, let's flip it over to the Warriors because they've lost 5 of 7, including 3 of their last 4 games at home. And then after last night's loss, Steve Kerr said the Warriors didn't maintain their grit in the fourth quarter. So, Richard, what do you think about this struggling Warriors team?
Well, we talked about it yesterday on Friday with the East-Western Conference when you're talking about, hey, look, the Phoenix Suns, no Chris Paul, and then they lose 2 in a row. Now the Golden State Warriors, no Draymond. And that you can say we just need to get Draymond back, but that entire time, you're up by 20. That don't have nothing to do with Draymond. But what Draymond often brings is that grit, that toughness, and he lights into people before it gets to the spot of a 20-point comeback. So until he's back, this is what they're going to have. They're going to have some ups. They're going to have some downs. They should have won this game. That's not Draymond's fault, but having him definitely solidifies your defense.
Well, they were without Draymond Green, and then also Klay Thompson was out last night. So how close, though, Ramona, are the Warriors to getting healthy here?
Well, I mean, Draymond has a back injury, and we've talked about this before, where, the thing with the back is you cannot rush these things, and, they're trying to be conservative with him. He initially thought he'd be back in 3 or 4 weeks. He started to practice again, and he's getting closer, but he still could be a little ways away here. So I think you're looking at just getting him back before the end of the regular season so they can build something towards the playoffs. Klay Thompson obviously out last night with a non-COVID illness. They need to play some games together because you can keep it going without one of these guys, sometimes 2 of these guys, but at some point they need to get on the court all together so they can build some momentum.
Absolutely, and we know that they're making some progress. We saw Draymond Green was able to participate in portions of practice, so that possibly is a good sign for the Warriors. I do want to bring in Mark Spears into our conversation because as we're talking about the Warriors and as we're talking about sort of the progress they're making towards getting healthy, you're right, Ramona, it is absolutely important that we see them getting some games together. So I want to bring in Mark Spears, senior writer for The Undefeated, because Mark, you were in the building last night. What stood out to you?
Just how deflated Steph looked after the game, how concerned he looked after the game. He said he was going to definitely watch film, but he was concerned about the lack of consistency, the struggles with the rotation, the energy, and how the energy shifted. And, he didn't mention the name Draymond Green. And one thing that certainly has stood out to me on that The Warriors were 29-9 in Draymond's real last game. Since then, they are 14-9. I think a loss like, I know Richard mentioned that, they shouldn't have blown that 20-point loss. But I think that mentality that Steph is concerned about, perhaps as a leader, he has to bring that out of him. But I know with Draymond there, those wouldn't be things that he would be talking about.
Absolutely. I guess from a more macro perspective, then, what do you make of the Warriors' struggles in February?
Man, Malik, Black History Month is only 28 days. I wish it was longer, but I think the Warriors are glad that February is over. They were 5-5 in February. They lost to the Knicks. They lost to the Clippers.
Right.
They had a close loss to Denver. Obviously, the horrible loss last night. And I asked Steph after the game, I said, does it bite you a little bit that you had a chance to gain momentum on Phoenix, right? Because with Chris Paul being out, and I'm actually mad at myself for not asking him about Memphis. Because to me, Memphis is the bigger concern. The Warriors only a game and a half ahead of Memphis in the second spot.
Yep.
The Warriors only have 8 home games left, 13 on the road. Memphis has 11 home games left, 9 on the road. And of the top 8 teams in the West, no one's playing worse than the Warriors right now. So if they're not careful, if they don't get it together, whether Draymond's there or James Wiseman's there or Clay's in and out, they could be looking at the number 3 seed and certainly a much harder road in the postseason.
Absolutely. Not to mention that we've seen teams like we've talked about Brooklyn a whole lot, needing that time to come together, to actually play together, to mesh and gel. I know that the Warriors are leaning a little bit on history there with Andre Iguodala, Klay Thompson, Draymond, and Steph having won together before, but you still have to mix in all of those new faces. Mark Spears, thank you so much for joining us here on NBA Today.
Thank you.
All right, still to come on NBA Today, my sit down with the birthday boy, Luka Doncic, on the starting out the season a little bit out of shape, those are his words, and how he's maturing. All right, it's time to go coast to coast on the weekend's action, and we're going to start with the Nuggets, who beat Portland by 32 and have now won a season-high 6 games in a row and 8 of their last 9. Richard, do you expect the Nuggets to make noise come playoff time?
Look, I think they can be a problem, but I feel like they're going to be one of those teams that's going to be a great tune-up for a championship run if they get the Phoenix Suns, if they get the Golden State Warriors possibly in the second round. But I love this team. I think they're going to be a hard out. We don't know what's going to go on with Jamal Murray, if he's going to come back, but Michael Porter Jr., he's almost ready. He should be back soon.
As Adrian Wojnarowski reported yesterday, they could be getting a little bit healthier, and that would certainly help. All right, let's go to Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz. They handed the Suns their second straight loss without Chris Paul. Jay Crowder had the ball in his hands in the last few seconds with a chance to tie it, but he threw the pass out of bounds. So, Ramona, bigger win for the Jazz or loss for the Suns here?
I think it's a bigger win for the Jazz. I mean, the Suns knew they're going to drop some games without Chris Paul.
Right.
So it's the first time they've dropped 2 in a row in a long time here, but the Jazz are trying to build something, and I thought this was a good win on the road.
Absolutely. And, I mean, the Jazz are another team that they've been great in the regular season. We haven't yet seen it translate to the playoffs, but could this possibly be the year? It may be. All right, I do want to stay in the West here, though, because the Clippers, they narrowly beat the Rockets 99-98, and they've now won 3 in a row to move a game above 500 for the first time since January 1st. So, Richard, how are the Clippers above 500 with no PG or Kawhi?
Because they play together so well. And this is a team that's come back from down 25 multiple times, down 30. This is a team that has no quit. They understand who they are. That's how they beat the Lakers the other night. They just outworked them. And it's not they're outworking them with talent. They're like, we're going to play together. They get 5-6 guys in double figures almost every single night.
And let's talk about Reggie Jackson again.
Ballin'. Absolutely ballin'.
All right, and lastly, let's go back to Saturday's ABC matchup between the Nets and the Bucks, where Kyrie Irving was a spectacular performance for him. Season high 38 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists in the win. And then post game, he was optimistic about playing at home soon.
Circumstances this year have not been ideal, but I'm glad that things are kind of settling down and there's light at the end of the tunnel here. And hopefully I can get back on that home floor and playing in the Barclays. And now we can finally have that conversation that you've been dying to have, just about, turning the page and moving forward.
All right, so Kyrie was optimistic because New York City Mayor Eric Adams said last week that he was looking to lift some of the local vaccine mandates. And then on Sunday, Adams announced that as long as there continues to be a low level of risk, the city would remove vaccine requirements in key to NYC, and that includes indoor dining, fitness, and entertainment venues. However, a Net spokesperson confirmed to me that New York's private employee vaccination mandate that will still keep Kyrie Irving from playing in Barclays Center, at least for now. So Adams was asked about Kyrie this morning on CNBC.
Listen, I want Kyrie on the court. You know, I would do anything to get that ring. So badly I want it. But there's so much at stake here. And, you know, I spoke with the owner of the team. We want to find a way to get Kyrie on the court, but this is a bigger issue. I can't have my city closed down again. And it was sending the wrong message just to have an exception for one player when we're telling a countless number of New York City employees, if you don't follow the rules, you won't be able to be employed.
In the garden.
All right, so we'll keep you updated on NBA Today as Kyrie's situation continues to develop as we welcome back Ramona Shelburne and Richard Jefferson. But Ramona, I want to go with you because you have another update on another Net that's working towards a return, Ben Simmons.
More Ben Simmons updates.
I know. They all sound very similar, don't they?
What do you got?
He's going to try to ramp it up again this week. So the sense is he's trying to recondition and get back into playing shape. He was always playing, he was always working out and in good shape, but there's a difference between practicing and ramping it up. And now last week he tried to ramp it up. He had a little, I don't know if setback is too strong of a word. He just had some back issue.
Right.
This is the same back issue that he had at the beginning of training camp when he returned to Philadelphia. This is something he's had for a couple of years. It's a lower back thing, kind of tightens up on him. He has to just pause for a moment. But the plan is the same this week. Ramp it up and see where you're at. You know, we're all counting down, though. That March 10th date back in Philly is coming up.
The March 10th date in Philly is coming up. I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking past that to the end of the regular season. It isn't that long away, and this team needs some time to gel. All right, thank you for that update. So that's an East Coast Conference update on injuries. I want to go to the West Coast now and welcome in ESPN senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. So, Woj, you have the latest on this year's Nuggets potentially getting back a key contributor soon. What's the outlook for Michael Porter Jr. here?
Yeah, Malika, Michael Porter Jr. is going to be cleared to return to contact, be able to get on the court with his teammates in practice within the next week, I'm told by his agent, Mark Bartelstein. And then at some point in March, the expectation is Michael Porter Jr. will be able to return to the Nuggets lineup. You know, he had back surgery about 3 months ago. He has been really being able to work out, play pain-free. And from the very beginning, they felt very confident about that procedure, which, listen, this is the third procedure he's had on his back since his freshman year at Missouri. But there was confidence that this was going to perhaps allow him to return this year. And I think especially because of how the Nuggets are playing. You know, 36-25, essentially tied for fifth with Dallas in the West. And the kind of season Nikola Jokic has had is having. This is a Denver team that not only expects that they're going to get back Michael Porter Jr. this month, but Jamal Murray, who's coming off a much more serious injury, that ACL. You know, there's still optimism. He can play again this season, although I don't think the expectation that Murray will just be himself coming off that surgery. But they see Michael Porter Jr. as a player right now who looks a lot like the player, you know, who was averaging 19 points a game for them last season, only played 9 games this season before the procedure.
Absolutely. So that's some good news for Nuggets fans who are thinking, all right, can we get Nikola Jokic some help? He's playing at such a high level. Woj, thank you so much. Ramona, please do not go anywhere. But Richard, will you come with me? Because it's time for the weekend edition of The Top of the Top. You don't have to be excited to hang out with me. You can be excited to hang out with Roz Guldan-Wude, who's joining us for this segment. All right, so first up, we're going to check out an insane, oh my gosh, you're heavy, 360-degree layup from Ja, and he did it on DeMar DeRozan, who's basically patented this move throughout his career. Take a look. I didn't mean to, not on my 60.
This is all he does
Look
now.
at this.
All-Star game, now this. I've seen it in other games, regular season.
I've said this before. Favorite quote is still T. Morant. He left his deodorant on the backboard. Like, that is bars. That is
But look
bars.
at that.
DeMar
Come
DeRozan,
on.
he knows a little something about doing this. He patented this move. All right, we'll take another look. Oh!
Look, I'm going to say, look, Vince Carter, like my guy, Vince. I watched you do it way too many times, and you were like, why don't you try it? I'm like, I don't jump like that.
We know.
I don't jump like that.
All right, let's do top ending. The Pistons and the Hornets. This game, 4 seconds left. It's tied. Take a look at the score there, and then this happens. All right.
Oh.
LaMelo.
Almost.
Oh, he had the
got
opportunity.
That?
I know.
I mean, it would have been part of his lore.
Yes.
But we go to overtime.
Yeah.
Fast
we go to
forward.
overtime. There we go. Fast forward. And Kelly Olynyk says, oh, I can hit that.
Okay.
Right,
I know how to do that.
I'm here for it. Veteran,
Delivers.
Oh, Gonzaga.
I know.
Gonzaga. Which one is it?
Gonzaga.
It's Gonzaga.
It's not the Zogs. It's
yeah,
the Zags.
it's Gonzaga till they win a national championship.
All right. Well, let's go to top warm-up because Stephen Wardell Curry. Is there anything he can't do? I know it didn't pan out in the game the way they wanted it to.
This is crazy. I mean, he goes shot after shot. The crowd is counting it down.
I'm not gonna lie. I have multiple clips of like this, and I will show it to my kids. Like, I kid you not, I show it to my kids. This is no lie. I swear to God, I'll give you proof after this.
Okay.
You show it to them, it's just like, watch how he shoots, watch what he does, watch his form. No, I'm not talking about the distance, the whole he ruined basketball, but like this is what kids should see. The practice, like he works his way back, he works his way up.
You're showing clips of Steph do this. I thought you meant clips of you doing this. I was like, I do not believe you.
I couldn't do this on a Papa shot. What the hell
So
are you
these are
talking
good
about?
fundamentals.
These
Steph
are
didn't
great.
ruin the game.
No. These are good fundamentals.
But
These
ask
are
him
good
tomorrow and he'll
fundamentals.
say yes.
Yes.
All right. Last up, top dime. Let's go back to Grizz Bulls. Take a look at Steven Adams here.
Okay, big fella.
Full court dime.
Come on.
How hard is that to execute, Richard?
I don't even think they play football in his
ask DeAndre
country.
Jordan.
Oh,
Wait, no?
no,
Too soon?
no, it's not too. It is never too soon for Lakers slander. It is never.
It's more privately, which is better for me, I would say. But you know, he knows basketball. He was an amazing player, one of the best passers in the world ever. So you know, he helps me a lot. We play the same position, so it's really nice to have him.
He just got a technical foul. He's been jawing with the refs all game.
One of the things that he sort of publicly criticized you about said, hey, maybe your chatter with the ref, you could tone that down a little bit.
Officials tend not to change calls, so we have to understand that we have to be grown-ups about that.
One thing about me is I'm always passionate when I play basketball. You can ask any ref, you know, we're good. We're like talk normal, and it just, I don't know, it's something passionate about me, you know. I don't know why I do it. I think I'm gonna learn the way. I can't promise right away, but outside the basketball game, I'm pretty chill always.
Do you keep an eye, though, on the technical fouls that you're racking up just because of the possibility of missing a game because of it?
It won't come to that for sure. That's for sure. It won't come to that. That's unacceptable. I can't do that.
Do you feel that this team, as presently constructed, has what it takes to win it all this year?
I mean, obviously, we have some things to work. I think our chemistry has been growing, which is one of the most important things to win a championship. You never know what can happen. I'm always confident.
Luka Doncic wrapped up February averaging nearly 35 points per game, the most in any month in Mavs history. And he now has the 2 highest scoring calendar months for the franchise. As we welcome in my sister, well, not from the Bay Area, but basically, Roz Goldunwoody. And we saw you just now. We saw you talking to Luka Doncic at Mavs Warriors. What did you see from Luka when you were watching him last night?
Well, I noticed his emotions pouring out throughout the game, especially early. He was frustrated, you know, that they were turning it over, that they were down big early.
Right.
I was outside the huddle. I noticed he was yelling, and Coach Kidd asked for his team to have more composure. He did get a technical, and, you know, as we saw in your sit-down with him, I mean, Luka is tied for the lead in this league for the most technicals. He has 13. If he gets 16, he will get suspended a game. So I asked Coach Kidd at halftime, does he like this energy out of Luka? And he said, look, Luka's just turning 23. You know, the maturity will come, but he does like the passion out of his young star. And then Luka said it post-game, I have passion, I love the game, but he knows he has to hold himself accountable to channel it into something good. But Malika, when it came down to the point where the Mavs could take the lead or hold on to that lead, well, Luka came up with huge plays to help them take that win. He is a winner.
Well, I imagine it's a balance for him too, right? Because you want to use that emotion as fuel, but you can't let it be the thing that's leading you and then you lose control over your emotions. That's sort of the balance I see him trying to strike, and he definitely struck the right balance last night. All right, besides Luka, what else are the Mavs leaning on here, though, as they make this playoff push?
Well, it's a whole lot of Luka. But
Fair.
No. I mean, number one, you'd have to point to their improvement on the defensive end. They've made a huge jump in the new year. Since January 1, they've been one of the top defensive teams in the league. And speaking with the players, I mean, a lot of that has to do with them committing to, we've got to talk more. They've become a team that's down with communication and also being more aware of how to help each other. Another thing that's important to look at, with Kristaps Porzingis gone, the question is who's the number 2 option after Luka Doncic? And I asked their second leading scorer, Jalen Brunson, is it him? And Jalen was not willing to commit to that. He wasn't even willing to commit that there was any number 2 option for the Mavs. In fact, it's more like they're trying to do it by committee. But you'll notice last game, Spencer Dinwiddie did show up in a big way. He's new to the squad. Maybe he might emerge there. But we'll see how long this number 2 by committee can really work come playoffs.
Absolutely, because we know that rotations, they get shorter in the playoffs, but that also means relying more on specific guys to carry out specific roles that they've honed in the regular season. Roz, thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping by NBA Today. Always. Boop. All right, when we said boop. When we return on NBA Today, we've got to talk about the legacy of one Mr. Greg Popovich approaching a major milestone. We'll dive into that when we return. So Ja Morant is ballin'. So back with Ramona and Richard here. Ja looks like he can continue his torrid pace against the Spurs tonight. But they have a milestone of their own that they're playing for, right? Because Greg Popovich is just one win away from tying Don Nelson for the most wins by a head coach in NBA history. So, Richard, you've played for Coach Pop. What would this accomplishment mean for Pop's legacy?
Well, I think it's beautiful that he is the winningest coach ever with one singular franchise. So he would draft players and he would develop them. You know about their 5 championships. Did they have a couple number 1 picks that had David Robinson and Tim Duncan? Yes, that will make your job easier. But I think the thing to be most proud of is when you look at guys like drafting Kawhi at 13, drafting Manu Ginobili in the 2nd round, drafting Tony Parker late in the 1st round, that we were all in the same draft. So, like, that is what's great about him. He has always nurtured an entire group and in a franchise. And what's even more beautiful is he's a military guy. He's in San Antonio, so his connection to the community is beautiful. And I don't think that there's a better representative of a person that should be the greatest coach and win-wise in NBA history.
You know, we haven't heard all that much about this all year. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of nightly updates. How far is he away from that? And that's kind of on brand for Pop, right?
Yeah.
I remember I've been trying to write stories about Pop for years, and you go to San Antonio and you try to get him to talk about himself. That's a non-starter. But I remember interviewing him at the finals once, and it was the year that they won after they had lost to the Heat in that really tough 7-game series. And you try to get him to talk about himself, and he wouldn't do it. But if you say, hey, tell me about Avery Bradley, and he would just open up. And I remember talking to Brett Brown at the time, who had been on his staff, and said, give me some stuff on Pop, right? And Brett said, well, listen, you got to do me if he comes off looking like, a big hero here, he's going to get mad at me. Like, everybody who knows Pop knows how much he does not like this limelight. He doesn't want it to be about himself. But there's a reason why people are so loyal to him for so many years, because he does create that military-type family amongst the Spurs and their players for a long time. Everybody who's played for him or coached with him, he's still in touch with.
Right.
Texting him all the time.
Well, and Richard was noting earlier today how the NBA, no one really does fanfare and milestones like the NBA. And yet, with Pop, it's been a little bit understated. But to you, what does he mean to you and to players and his legacy there?
You know what? He is the ultimate perspective guy. And you look at, some of his disciples, Monty Williams, Steve Kerr, like, even his coaching tree is continuing to grow. And even he was on Don Nelson's staff. So he's got such a great relationship. And Mike Budenholzer. So when you look at his impact on the game of basketball, it's next level. But the thing most important to me is that he is such a thinking man past the game of basketball. We would come into practice and he'd be like, hey, you think we have a problem? Look at what's going on in this country. Look at what these people have to deal with. He is teaching young men. Even though some of them are 30s in this, he will always keep things in perspective and give you a world view while you're also trying to play basketball. It's special.
Not to mention that his disciples, his coaching tree is now starting to have coaching trees. And to watch that play out also, that is also special. So here are the Spurs' next 5 games. They're against the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Hornets, the Lakers, the Raptors. Again, Coach Pop needs 1 to tie Don Nelson and then 1 more for most all time. All right, shifting to a much more serious story here. The Russian invasion in Ukraine continues to affect sports as several WNBA players they're currently playing in Russia are reportedly making plans to leave the country in the coming days.